is, I think, certain behaviors and food and diet that I celebrate in my culture positively and negatively affects health. So to be more specific, in my culture, and it's not generalizing like everyone in my culture, but what I've been around, generally it's like a lot of heavy meat-based foods and white rice. So for my diet, so I think that's not the healthiest. We do have healthy foods also, but I'm just pointing out there are definitely some unhealthy foods that are, heavy with like, bad cholesterol and things like that. So that's how I see it affected. Who wants to start? I don't want to call on people. Okay.
So my name is Marilyn. I think the way that culture influences health. I currently work I intern at a hospital, and the community that we see is Hispanic, Latino, Latina, and I think they tend to come in groups, which is natural for this culture. I think they want to be like informed of what happens to the patient and things like that. So I think it's very interesting how I guess like they tend to come in like herds, so to speak, and like sort of populate a cramped area of the hospital to see what's going on. So I think it just shows that even if it's like a small thing, like a cut on their arm or like a flu or anything like that, then they tend to like stick with each other, so that not only transmit to health, but like with other aspects as well. So like if there's a graduation at school or like anything else, like a really big event, everyone's gonna go to that specific event. And the same like with the hospital, if someone's sick, everybody's gonna go to see the state of that person.
Thank you. Let's go this way.
Okay.
Sorry, Cynthia.
My name is Cynthia. The way I think culture affects health is, so as like, coming from a Vietnamese background, I've noticed that we don't really talk about sexual health specifically. So my family shuns talking about sex. Like everyone knows we do it, but no one actually talks about it. So I feel like we're very unaware of like STDs and whatnot. Like most of my family are less likely to go to the hospital and get tested for STDs or HPV and whatnot. So I think that also has like an effect on me. Like personally, because I'm like a health major, so I will go out. I won't exactly come home and say like, "Oh, mom, this is what I did today. Like I got tested." So
yeah, thank you for sharing. Very true.
Hi, my name is Vivian. I think I would say a health disparity would be talking about mental health in the Vietnamese community, and it has a lot of stigma and not really talked about. And I feel like it's something that should be talked about, especially with what's going on with like even from some people can't really hold on to the cultural traditional values, and they can't get along with like assimilate to the current culture, and then so then they struggle with that, or from like background history with communism taking over and stuff, and some of them hold that trauma still hold on to them, and they don't talk about it, and they don't really, and it's just like, oh, I just gotta deal with it now. And it's just something that should be acknowledged and something that should be really talked about and discussed.
Thank you for sharing. Can we go back there?
what was the question?
So how does your culture influence and affect health?
So I think talking about our own personal problems, kind of like mental health and support, not only like as a friend or not only like parents, but as friends. So like willing to talk about other than just what's going on at home, but at school and with friends. So more of a support system. Because what I've noticed and realized that a lot of parents from my culture are at full-time and kids pretty much grow up by themselves or with their own siblings. So it's not like they have a parents who be looking after them. So more of a parent support.
Thank you for sharing. Ivy?
I think this is a hard question, and I'm still thinking. And so I'm Ivy, and I think the way that culture affects our health is that for my culture, I think my culture is more conservative in comparison to American culture. So there's many things that we don't talk about, and sometimes we can be shy and we don't like express ourselves that really as people here. So that can affect our mental health.
Thank you. Darius, you want to answer?
Hi, my name is Darius. Yeah, this is also a very hard topic. I'm not saying I don't know my own culture. It's been weird talking to other people in their cultures. But what popped in my head was so coming from a conservative family too. I want to also mention that I also come from a very low income setting. How that culture affects me in that kind of community is that we tend to build on like a work ethic where practically everything is towards being productive, whether you become more resourceful or in terms of trying to gather as much like basically the term free, whatever comes to mind, you just take it, like samples at Costco, you just take it. How that affects me, and the most part, is that it relies on me becoming more intuitive to what I want to be concerned about. At the same time, so that's my ability on how I want to get things done in a more ethic. A setback would be like, in terms of like taking breaks, or the term vacation is very discouraging because it goes to show like if you have time to take a break, you have time for more work. That's basically how the mindset is. So practically the description for working is like kind of like what's promoted in my area. It's not bad. It's just like we just like to prioritize being productive.
Thank you for sharing.
Just to add to the mental health stigma, I think in our culture, it's not really taken as seriously as like your physical health. And like for example, I started going to CAPS, and if I were to tell my family that I did that, they're gonna think like, oh, she's crazy, like what's wrong with you? But I'm just like, I just want to improve on my well-being. So just that mental health stigma.
Hi, my name is Sam Matar. I think one big way culture might affect health is maybe, this is just a general statement, but maybe the different lifestyles that certain cultures have might bring on certain ailments or unwanted diseases, I guess. I don't mean sexual, I mean like through food and stuff like that, or maybe different cultures, just, I think personally, I can't think of any major ailment that, where my culture gets it, but I do know quite a few uncles and stuff that smoke cigarettes or smoke and stuff, so one way.
Thank you so much. And just to get going with the program, I'm going to introduce our featured faculty for Taste of Graduate School. Erin, do we have time? Okay, yeah, because I was going to go back around at the end. But Erin, quickly say.
Sorry.
That
was like kind of thing. Okay. But I'll keep it brief. For me as a Filipino American, I noticed that there's a lot of talk about like some blaming, but I do want to try to keep into context like the colonial history of the Philippines and how that influences a lot of people's mental health as far as not seeing value in being Filipino in comparison to our colonizers, whether that's just Europe in general or any Western countries, particularly the United States. So who's over there?
Thank you. And do you want to say your name?
Taylor.
Yeah.
What else?
Share how culture affects health or influences health, your culture.
So I guess like coming from the teen community, mental health is something that's not really like acknowledged, something that you're supposed to like deal with like internally. So I can see how.
Well, lots of key themes that I heard from everyone. And then let's welcome Dr. Sora Tanjasiri. Her bio is in your handout. So thank you so much for being here. She has her doctorate in public health, is a professor in the Department of Health Science, and the director of Health Promotion Research Institute here at Cal State Fullerton. Her teaching and research focus on community health promotion among diverse populations, particularly Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. So let's give her a round of applause, everyone.
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to hear. Yes, did it not? Yeah, that's funny. Some of it did not.
Stapled, but there's.
Yeah, some of them are stapled strangely. Huh?
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Did everyone get a double? It should be a staple. Okay, so thank you for the opportunity to come and speak with you today. I am actually a full-time administrator, so I don't get to teach one of my favorite classes, which is this class. It's called Advanced Health Promotion Disease Prevention. It's at the master's level, and it's given to second semester, first-year master's students in our Master's in Public Health program. So I am going to give you a little taste of what it would be like if you were in this core class. And particularly, I'm going to be talking today about theories and models regarding community organization. There's going to be a lot of terminology that you may not understand. You may, though, especially if you're health science majors. But don't worry about it, right? Conceivably, you would have been already taking a lot of the prerequisites to take this class. But it gives you an idea of the kinds of levels that we want to have in terms of thinking and also in terms of doing. I do want to give you a little flash about what this syllabus actually looks like. And so you can see that there is a whole host of articles that of readings that you have to do on, this is a class on health promotion theory. And it's also the writing requirement at the graduate level. And so we required you to do an in-depth, usually around 20-page literature review by the time that you're at the end of the class. And there are many, many assignments that help you get there to do it. But it's an expectation for students, master's students, to be able to write. And also, it sets you up to be able to create in your second year what would be your Master's in Public Health project that requires a literature review. So we're almost, for example, kind of stepping you through that process by requiring it as part of your coursework earlier on. And as you can see, the lecture I'm going to be giving to you is not the first lecture. So there's a lot of things that will happen beforehand to set up this lecture. And I do want to say that while we require a book that we also require at the undergraduate level, it's supplemented by a lot of readings. And so, for example, for this lecture today, you would have been required to read a chapter in a book by the sociologist William Ryan called Blaming the Victim. And I love that book. Okay, so let's first just talk, because you would have gotten this in an early lecture, but I think it's important to set up today. What is theory? So there are no wrong or right answers. So just tell me, what do you think theory is?
A reason behind why.
A reason what?
A reason behind why we behave a certain way.
Very good. Okay, so really understanding why we behave a certain way. What else? Yes.
A series of ideas that help explain a certain phenomenon.
Very good. Okay, are we talking health science over here? health, human services, health science.
In psychology.
Oh, very good. Very good. Yeah, it's to help us have an understanding of the world. In this case, for this class, it's about health behaviors, but in other classes, it could be a lot of other things. And what I like to say is that it's a systematic view of the world. And it breaks down into different factors, and we're trying to understand the relationship between those factors. And we're not trying to do it in an abstract reality, right? We're not talking about a virtual reality. We're talking about real life situations. We're trying to understand why they happen, or how they can be changed. And I have a little example here of the theory of relativity. How many of us know the theory of relativity? Yeah, that's right, exactly. This is not something that we need to know. And yet, please think of this in terms of relationships and situations. I'm going to show you it.
Einstein, the icon of genius. Why? Because he figured out E equals mc squared.
Everyone heard that?
Like songs. No, because he came up with the most powerful idea in science, general relativity. His masterpiece is now 100 years old, and while the physicists are partying, the rest of us are left wondering what the fuck it's all about.
Sorry about that.
Here goes. At 26, he figured out nothing less than a new theory of space and time. It led to a nifty way of simplifying physics by treating space and time as one thing, space-time. Albert was just warming up. He wasn't happy with Isaac Newton's mysterious force of gravity. Naturally, he started working his own theory. And sure enough, he cracked it. Mass causes space-time to curve. The natural motion of things is to follow the simplest path through space-time. But since objects with mass curve space-time, stuff moves towards the most massive object. That's what you feel as gravity. It's warped space and time that's keeping your feet on the ground. Warped space. Might sound too sci-fi to be true, but we can measure the bending of starlight as it passes through the warped space around the sun. Warped time sounds even more ridiculous. But take an accurate clock at the top of a building and you'll see it runs slightly quicker than one on the ground. That's because as you move away from the centre of the planet, space and time are less warped. Most amazing of all, Einstein's theory told us that our universe has a beginning. Everything is expanding out from a hot, dense origin 13.8 billion years ago. But here's the catch. We've spotted that the universe is expanding faster than Albert's theory predicts. Could the old genius be wrong? To stick with this idea, we had to invent a made-up energy, dark energy, to account for the speeding expansion. And we've had to assume there's an exotic form of dark matter we haven't detected yet either. These two unknowns should make up 95% of the universe, yet we've never detected them. That's the sort of thing that keeps physicists awake at night. So they're plotting some seriously big experiments to put Albert's theory to the ultimate test. For the last 100 years, Uncle Albert's great theory has passed every test possible. If it succeeds again, physicists will party. If they find its limits and it finally fails, they'll party too. Physicists are funny on that.
Okay, so what do we get from that in terms of what is a theory? What was the theory of relativity? What kind of situation is it trying to explain?
The universe.
Right, the universe and the things that happen in the universe, such as gravity around mass objects. And what are the factors that they're looking at? He's looking at specifically two. So space and time, and the example could be how light bends through those. But really two factors, two main factors and one situation, and trying to predict, understand and predict how things behave within them. Okay, so unfortunately, nothing I talk today is going to be nearly as fun as the theory of relativity. Isn't this so fun? Mm-hmm. But I do want to say, folks at Cal State Fullerton are actually looking for that dark matter. This video says they haven't found it. Well, they actually have. And it's happening at the Gravitational Wave Center on campus right now. So theory can be fun. Theory can be cool. It can be relevant. It can be always researching. And that's what I'm here to convince you in this demonstration and then ideally in a semester-long class. And don't worry, a lot of my students are not convinced necessarily at the end, but they do understand the usefulness of this. Okay, so what we talk about in public health are behavioral theories. And what we're trying to do is identify theories and models to describe behavior change and what kinds of factors influence them. We usually talk about individual factors. So for instance, in smoking prevention, oftentimes you'll see education that goes out that says, well, in order to prevent teens from smoking, you've got to take good care of your health. You've got to feel that health is important. That's an individual thing, right? I've got to feel that. Or I've got to say no. Okay, I'm not a teenager, but if I were, I just need to say no to smoking, right? Or I just need to understand that smoking costs a lot of money. These are all individual approaches and individual factors. So instead of space-time, you could think about as individual factors as one of them. But it turns out that in terms of actual impacts and changing people, so actually preventing smoking among youth, these are actually some of the worst approaches. What happens when you go up to a youth, a young person, and say, don't smoke, just say no? What do they want to do? Yeah, they want to do the opposite. That their brains are programmed to explore things and learn from them. So it's actually not impactful at all. And in fact, the most impactful theories about how you change people's behaviors or how would you get them to prevent them from smoking come from what we call ecological models. They're much more holistic. They don't just look at the individual. They don't just blame the victim. This is the reason why you had to read a chapter on this. They don't just blame the victim, the individual, for why they smoke or don't smoke. So I'm not talking about today about the ecological model, although I usually spend a whole lecture talking about this. But the essence of an ecological model are multiple factors. So you have individual factors, like what do people know? What do people believe? What are they able to do? But you also have interpersonal. Many of you talked about those networks of people, right? Who influence you. You all go together to the hospital. You all go together. Turns out that smoking, youth smoking in particular, happens in groups. So when kid smokes, it's generally the sense that other people will smoke in their same group. And so the networks that youth are in are important. In addition, the organizations and communities, the organizations that people are in are very important. They influence the environment, the values, right, that they bring. And community, same thing. Those cultural values you just talked about, whether people value health or whether people value speaking about health or stigmatizing things, those things can set an environment for within people can feel like they can do healthy behaviors. And then finally, public policy. We won't talk about that today, but public policy plays a huge role. In fact, one of the easiest ways to prevent youth from smoking, does anyone know a policy way to do this? You pass a law that basically does what? Over 21, although, believe me, even though you raise the limit, youth still want to smoke. You actually raise the tax on cigarettes. The more expensive you make a pack of cigarettes, the less likely youth is going to smoke it. And that's it's directly shown, and it's very policy oriented. Okay, so we're going to talk today about community. How do you influence people's community? First, how do you assess this influence? And then how do you use it for change in communities? And we're going to use it towards the problem of smoking prevention. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go through this. It'll be a little bit of a blur, but I want you to understand that there are multiple theories at the community level that can help to explain why people do and do not do things. For instance, you can use what's called a community development approach. This is really common. Someone usually from the outside sees a community. So many of you mentioned that you're from low resource communities. So let's say a Vietnamese community, people who are new refugees, right? There's not a lot of income. There's not a lot of infrastructure. And so people from the outside will say, in order to help promote community, to prevent smoking, we should go in there and help them develop. It's a needs-based because I see the problem, I see a need. And it's consensus-based, meaning that the people around the table trying to make the decision about what to do come to an agreement, like, yeah, that community is in need, and yeah, we need to go in there and do something. It's a very classic kind of a expert from the outside come in and solve the problem. There are also a way that you can say, well, you know, it's needs-based, but you actually base it on conflict. So, for instance, you may not remember this, but about 15, 20 years ago, there was a huge fight in California around smoking. Smoking was not illegal at that, I shouldn't say illegal, wasn't controlled, right? Like non-smoking bans. And there was a big fight. The big fight was against communities because they wanted to prevent smoking. And against who? Do you remember? Who wanted to promote smoking in California?
Companies.
Companies, that's right. And so they were having a lot of fights. Companies were coming in and saying, it's free will. If someone wants to smoke, they should do it. And communities were saying, we don't care. If you smoke, if I smoke, you will still get affected, right? So it's a community issue. And so a lot of social action was happening. Communities were protesting against big tobacco. It's, again, another way to address community approaches. You can do something called an empowerment approach. I'm not going to talk about that. Or you can do something called the capacity building approach. Now, I love this. And I should say, and all of these approaches involve really community-based strategies. For instance, building coalitions with leaders, training lay people, that's local people, on the issues, developing everyone's leadership to be able to speak and plan and do things around these issues. These are all important things. You don't really think of it in terms of smoking prevention, right? But if you're thinking about a community level approach, these are the strategies you use. And I particularly like something that is very strengths-based, right? It's based on what people in the community already have, which is knowledge of their community, which is cultural understanding, social networks and connections between people. We don't, oftentimes in health, we see the problems associated with that. But in community organization approaches, we see those as strengths, assets. And the whole idea is to bring people together who agree to work together to build the capacity of the community to address their health concern. Okay, so we're going to talk about not so much about what that means, but how to do this. Okay. So think of it. Classic youth smoking prevention is you go to youth and you tell them not to smoke. Don't you know it's bad for you? Don't you know it's expensive? Don't you, right? Don't hang out with those friends who smoke, etc. In a community organization approach, a capacity building, you bring people together and you actually have them go through things like identifying what's important to them. Right? So is smoking prevention important to them? If so, what kind of skills do they need to identify the problems, to name the problems, to work together to address them? You can bring youth, you can bring adults together, you can bring smokers together and non-smokers. I've been told, I've been doing capacity building work for a long time, and I've been told a number of times that the best youth and adults to prevent smoking are ones who smoke currently, because they have the hardest time quitting, and they know why it's so important to prevent. So it doesn't mean that you have to be a super healthy athlete, etc., to be part of this. Everyone can be part of this. Okay, so for the rest of the time, I'm actually going to talk about a way to do this, to bring people together, to build their capacity, to work as a community on a common issue. And that's called photo voice. And that was the reading for today. So I know you have other lives and other classes because this is not a real class to you, but I'm hoping you at least skimmed this article and got a sense of what photo voice is. So from looking at the article, right, there are many things that we did over several years with communities. What communities, first of all, did I work with? And by the way, I think I assigned the article that I wrote, so sorry about that. That's not always the case. But what communities did I work with? Does anyone remember?
Asian American and Pacific Islander.
Yeah, Asian Americans, and in particularly Southeast Asians. We were working with Cambodian and Laotian youth in 2 cities. One in Southern California, if anyone knows about the Cambodian and Laotian community. There's a large population in, anyone know? Very good. There is a population in there, but there's a larger population in Long Beach. And in the Bay Area, does anyone know? It's in Richmond. And we also worked with a community up in Seattle. So 3 communities. Each of these communities had youth that were working together on community issues to promote health. They were these youth groups, right? And we said, okay, great. Are you interested in tobacco prevention? And if so, do you want to participate in something called Photo Voice? So, what is Photo Voice then? Some of it you should get from the title of the article, of the name or the word. So, what do you think it is? Someone say taking pictures. Yeah, thank you. It involves taking pictures. And so that's obviously the photo part of it. And the voice means being able to use pictures to communicate needs and strategies. Right, so Photo Voice is a way to bring people together to capture pictures of health issues and do so in a way that communicates what are those factors that should change in the community. Okay. It is what we call participatory action. It means that people from communities must be intimately involved in taking those pictures and identifying the need. No one from the outside can come in. It's not a community development approach. It's absolute community capacity building. It's a method that's based on health promotion principles of community organization, empowerment theories, and non-traditional ways, particularly photography, as a way to capture. A lot of times we think about in health, well, what captures needs? It's data. You have to do a survey. You have to know how many people are dying. You have to know how many people are smoking, right? Data, data, data. But actually, it turns out that images can be very powerful to communicate to others. And like I said, it involves community members taking pictures of what's important to them health-wise and interpreting the meanings of those pictures for community change. Does that sound cool? Just pictures. Okay, and there are lots of websites that you can go to learn about Photo Voice. There are a lot of people who've done this, including us. Okay, so the goals are, number 1, to enable community members to capture and reflect on their community's strengths and concerns. To provide a visually compelling way. There are no statistics involved in this approach. There's no numbers involved. It is images to present a compelling way to promote community awareness. And what's nice about this community-based approach is it addresses another level of the ecological model, which is policymakers. Part of Photo Voice is to gear those images to people in positions of power who can actually help make change in the community. Because oftentimes what people are capturing need policy changes to address. Let's see, where are we now? Okay. Get ready, we're gonna go through the steps of Photo Voice and then we're gonna do an actual exercise. You're gonna do an exercise. So I'll quickly go through the steps of how do you do Photo Voice. And please know, as you can see in that article, we did this photo voice project over a year. So there are many, many different steps involved. So even though this seems simple, it's really important to get diverse people together and actually have them go through together this process. Okay. So the easy thing, the first thing is you need a camera, right? Or a phone camera, a digital camera, etc. When this was first developed, when this was first developed, they actually had disposable cameras. This was first developed and used in China to understand the needs of women's health in rural China. The woman who was the pioneer of photo voice in public health, her name is Caroline Wang, and she's the daughter of my dissertation chair. So I got to see this up close and personal, and it was fascinating. So they had to, if you can imagine, had to actually figure out how to process these pictures and give them back to the communities. Oh, it took so long. Now it's super easy. Everyone's got some sort of a camera either on your phone or other device. Okay. Of course, because we're talking about community organization, the next thing you need are community members. You need people who want to get together and actually work on something together. Okay, so this is, by the way, this is going to be a room of community members. You are now community members. You might want to start pulling out your phones, your photographic devices. Okay, and then what we do is we provide trainings to people. A lot of people don't know about how to take a picture. In fact, when we first trained youth, we gave them digital cameras. This is before we had, everyone had the smartphones. And we told them to go out and take pictures. Can anyone guess what the most popular picture was the first time we did that? What? Wait, speak up, what?
Oh, she said selfies.
Selfies, yes! People want to take pictures of themselves and their friends and their other friends. And then you just had a pile of pictures of people, which is super fun, but doesn't quite get at what they feel the needs are in the community, right? So we had to train them to go back out and actually look at their environment with a different eye. We talked about the basics of photography. How do you make a clear picture, right? Or an unclear picture. If you want to do an unclear picture, how do you figure out what you're trying to take a picture of and focus on that? And the logistics, we were using digital cameras. Then people have to take pictures. And they go through iterations. They take pictures, and then they come back and show them to each other. Then they go out and take more pictures, and they do this, right? To try and get a common understanding of what the needs are. So in a sense, the data is the picture, and the analysts are your other community members, you guys in a room, looking at them thinking like, wow, what do we see here? What's going on? What do we need more of? That means analyzing the pictures. And there's no right or wrong way to do this, but there is a what they call showed method of analysis. Identify the key advocacy points after this, after you go through many iterations of this. And then finally advocate for what you want to change in the community in order to promote health. And so, and this is a lot of ways of showing people how to use cameras, getting people together. All across the world, people have used this approach. Taking the pictures and then advocating, whether it's in public spaces to educate, or it's going in front of policymakers and telling them what needs to change, whether it's laws or funding or etc. Any questions about this so far? So, do you need a PhD to do this? Do you actually need any educational level necessarily to do this? No. And that's why it's perfect for communities, no matter what kind of background and skill sets people have. Have PhDs done this? Absolutely. We could do this. In fact, we like doing this. But anyone can do this. That means you. So what I want you to do is this. How many people are in the room? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9. I want you to get into groups of 3. You all, or in the group, someone should have, there should be at least one camera that doesn't have to be just one. You can have more than one. And I want you to do this. I'm going to assign you. So normally we don't do this. Normally what we do is we ask you what health topic do you want to work on. But I'm just going to assign you a health topic because we only have 10 minutes to do this experiment, okay, or this exercise. I'm going to just assign you smoking prevention topic. So pretend like this is the most important or one of the most important concerns that you feel is going on in your community. A lot of youth are smoking. You want to prevent it because it creates a lot of problems for them and future, and people are dying. People are getting exposed. So just please take that on, even though I understand that this is probably not the most important issue. But what I want you to do is talk together about what kind of pictures do you want to take. You can do this while you're walking out the store, because I want for 10 minutes for you to go around. Don't trip. Don't trip down the stairs. Anywhere in the building, anywhere that you can get to, take pictures and come back here by 12:30. I want you to take pictures, multiple pictures. There's no right or wrong, right? Because you're going to go then through a process of picking out the pictures that you think are the best. So 10 minutes. How are we going to do this? I want you to count off in 1, 2, 3.
1,
2.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, so all the ones get together here. All the twos get together in the middle. All threes get together on this side. You've got your topic. You have 10 minutes. Go. Oh, we're staying in the room, so you can leave your stuff here. So 10 minutes, go, take pictures, and come back. Okay? Does every team have at least one camera device to take pictures? You can use multiple, right? Everyone can take pictures if you want. Does every group have at least one? Okay, then. See you in 10 minutes.
I think we need the energizer, huh?
See you in 10 minutes.
Almost there.
Go walk. Take a cookie when you walk out if you need a little sugar.
Or another sandwich.
Or another sandwich.
Can you pause it?
I think you can do stop.